When I look back on some of my old writing, I may not hate it as much as many other writers hate their old writing, but there are definitely things that make me cringe. Often, the point I tried making in those stories was solid, but things were sometimes too forced because I was young and trying to make a statement. My first attempts at audio fiction have moments where the sound makes me want to grit my teeth and cover my ears. And some of the writing, too. Even with some of the earlier Not About Lumberjacks stories, I did well with the gear that I had, but so much of the sound was not what I heard in my head. We all have to start somewhere, though, and those early attempts can be very embarrassing.
Is that my gold?
What the hell are you?
I once wrote a 14,000 word story about a guy who eats bugs. Seriously. Along the way in that story, hybrid flying scorpions somehow took over the world's oil supply. I don't remember what point I was trying to make with that story, but I remember thinking, this is great. I'm glad that old typewritten story doesn't exist anymore, but I will admit it was an important step in my writing. As ridiculous as the story was, it gave me confidence to try something different and branch out and try writing something longer than I had ever written before. And parts of it were genuinely clever and made me laugh. Thinking about it, I'm kind of sad that it doesn't exist anywhere anymore. My first fiction podcast was me narrating my first novel, Hell Comes with Wood-Paneled Doors, and that show still has moments that I cherish today. It was downloaded over 125,000 times, so other people seem to like it too, even though there are parts I wish I could go back and do over today. But I'm not writing for yesterday, I'm writing for today and what's ahead. And a character in Hell Comes with Wood-Paneled Doors inspired the main character of the last novel I finished, which is the best thing I've ever written. My last book and all the books that follow wouldn't exist had I not written that humorous coming-of-age story about a family traveling cross-country in a possessed station wagon. That story about the bug eater, it wasn't good, but it did have a lot of elements that I still lean on today. It was the story of an everyman who rose to prominence in his own way and then came to find peace at the end of his life. And not all my early attempts at writing were weak. Many fan favorites on Not About Lumberjacks are stories that I wrote decades ago. And the first thing I ever wrote and submitted with the hope of publication was a 12-page comic book script for an anthology that I'm still proud about. Yeah, there are panels that I'd tighten up if I were doing it today, but I still love the very first thing that I ever wrote for publication and saw in print. If you look back on your old writing and cringe, that's natural. But I challenge you to go back over it with a simple goal in mind. Find what you did well from the start and celebrate it. Don't just focus on what you feel you did wrong, because some of that may not even be wrong, and you were probably doing a lot of things right from the start. Granted, those stories are probably not as tightly written as what you're doing today, but when I think about the stories that I would seriously will out of existence, I can still see things written by somebody who was taking chances and doing their own thing. I see a lot of heart in those stories that still beats today. In fact, I take back what I just said. Even the stories that I think that I would wish out of existence are part of the writing that I'm doing right now. And most importantly, older me sometimes needs the reminder to not take myself so seriously, and just have a little fun. Hey, if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up or checked out a story at nolumberjacks.com. And if you want to watch a video about how my views about writing have changed over the years, you can watch that right here.